Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? I'm waiting to see if there's a thumbs up. Can't hear me still. All right. Oh, you can hear me now? All right. So thank you for showing up. I appreciate it. Cool, Kaylee. Thank you. Thank you. So I just am curious if you like my new overlay. I'm just learning how to use the new features of StreamYard, and it is definitely a learning curve. If you do, give me a thumbs up. If you don't care for it, give me a thumbs down. It's okay. It's not going to offend me because, like I said, I am learning. So, first of all, let me see who's here. Say hello. And I am excited. I've been waiting for a while, as you know. My whole thing. I want to see. I had invited somebody, possibly. Um, okay. All right. So I'd invited somebody at the last minute. But they're playing disc golf. They're playing disc golf. So, um, I'm going to see who's here. So, of course, hello, Kaylee. Thank you so much. Um, I'm sad to see that someone answered the poll yes, and that they think they know everything about the Constitution. Well, you know what, Kaylee? I think many of us. I used to think I knew everything about the Constitution as well. I I mean, I thought I was competent. I originally had put the word competent in there instead of everything. Are you competent in the U.S. Constitution? But there's a lot to it, and a lot. There's a lot to it. So, Carol Walters, good afternoon, and I did a video that I need. I did a video yesterday. I'm working on a meal. It was a quick meal that I did, and I thought at the last minute. During the preparation, I'm going to make this for Carol. So you could see a meal that was simple and easy and fairly healthy. All right, Diane Phoenix, welcome to you. Thank you so much for showing up. Travel Dreamer 46, thank you. I'm glad you're here. And yesterday was a gorgeous day. Unfortunately, Richard and I had plans to go do something and film it, but I ended up in bed with my stomach was in a mess, and I got this thing going on, but unfortunately here I cannot get my ultrasound until I'll be 62 by the time I get my ultrasound, which is in October 6th, and so it's not an emergency, but it's uncomfortable. Maybe they're a constitutional scholar. That's true. That is true. And we will see. We couldn't graduate middle school if you couldn't recite the preamble. I don't remember. What I learned. All I know is that in high school we did American history. And I graduated in 1976, so that was a long time ago, and I barely made it through. So, if it weren't for my BFF at the time, who was much smarter than me, and I was very distracted by other events, other things I was doing at the time, and if it wasn't for her, I would never have been able to get through American history. At the time, the sad thing is, at the time, I was not the least bit interested in any of this. It had nothing, I don't know if you were that way, I was that way. It had nothing to do with my life in the moment. No, I don't, only scholars, because, we can read through it. I have a little pocket one. When I did my constitutional law class at the University of Oregon, we had to print out a bunch of stuff, and then we also had the pocket Constitution. Cool. I'm glad that people want to talk about it. Hello, Judy Smiley. Thank you for coming. So here, as you know, maybe I live in Eugene, Oregon, and I used to have a teacher I believe he was in middle school, named Mr. Smiley, a very cool man, and I don't remember what he taught, but I remember he was good. He was good. He was a good guy. Unmuted now, thank goodness. Uh, was just it was just released. Not sure where it falls with constitutional rights, if anywhere. Hi everyone. Hi Planet It Fitness. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Thank you. It's been a very busy morning trying to just get everything together. Like I said, yesterday was not a good day, and I wasn't 100% about today. And I literally couldn't sit at my computer and do all the work I needed to do to gather the documents. It was that painful. Is it still seeming muffled? I'm not sure where this gets plugged in at, but is it still seeming muffled to you? I hope it's not still seeming. I'm going to see if I miss anybody so we can get started, because there is a lot to it. A lot to it. Just because no one can really know everything doesn't mean it's not worth studying. And it would be awesome if everyone could at least as well be at least as well versed as you are and learn in a deliberate way. All right. I'm glad that's better. Thank you. I'm glad it's better. All right. It's a living document subject to interpretation by the Supreme Court. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get going. One more sip of water, and then I'm going to pull it up. We have 5 people here. If you feel like sharing this out, please do so. I would love to have more people in here talking about this and sharing their ideas. Because what we're going to do, first I'm going to show you one of the documents I'm not going to be reading from this one. So this here is I'm going to go behind the scenes here. Does that say Oh, that's all right. So that's not the one I wanted to show at this second. So I'm going to stop sharing that one, and I'm going to pull the right one up. So you can go, and I put the links already in for you. You can go to the National Archives. Oh, no. I want you to know where you can go to see this stuff yourself. So what's so cool is that we have available to us high resolution. If that's Richard and Czar, could you pop in here for a moment? High resolution downloads of the original. High resolution downloads. And to me, those I didn't want to download and take up the space. I have a laptop, and so it's not got the biggest memory. And so I just want to put the link in there so that you can go look for yourself at these documents: the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, all in high resolution, and each amendment. Look at that. Oh, Czar just went for a walk with his grandpa. Here's your phone. There you go. So I wanted you to know that, and that is from the National Archives. Now, if we can't trust the National Archives, who can we trust? All right, so I'm going to get rid of that. There you go. All right, so we will pull up the version we're going to read from. And we're going to read this version from the Senate.gov. All right. So we're just going to read. I'm going to make sure I'm going to switch over to StreamYard because I'm literally reading right from the document. Is that large enough for you to read along? Because, that's really the goal, is I want you to see it for yourselves. I'm going to increase the size a bit, which will decrease me, which is fine. So this is the introduction written in 1787, ratified in 1788, and in operation since 1789. The United States Constitution is the world's longest surviving written charter of government. And I didn't know that, by the way. Its first three words, we the people. And I'm going to interject occasionally. We the people. Affirm that the government of the United States exists to serve its citizens. The supremacy of the people through their elected representatives is recognized in Article 1, which creates a Congress consisting of Senate and House of Representatives. It's what we call bicameral. The positioning of Congress at the beginning of the Constitution affirms its status as the first branch of the federal government. The first branch of the federal government. The positioning of Congress at the beginning of the Constitution affirms its status as the first branch of the federal government. Doesn't mean it's a higher branch, it's just the first branch. The Constitution assigned to Congress responsibility for organizing the executive and judicial branches, raising revenue. So I'm going to do it slow. The Constitution assigned to Congress responsibility for organizing the executive and judicial branches, raising revenue, declaring war, and making all laws necessary for executing these powers. The president is permitted to veto specific legislative acts, not all, specific. But Congress has the authority to override presidential vetoes by how much? 2/3. Majority in both houses. Both houses. So bicamerally, they can override a president's veto. And lots of people don't realize that. I have come to understand. The Constitution also provides that the Senate advise and consent on key executive and judicial appointments and on the approval for ratification of treaties. For over 2 centuries, the Constitution has remained in force because its framers successfully separated and balanced government powers to safeguard these interests of majority rule and minority rights, of liberty and equality, and of the federal and state governments. So, say it again, it's remained in force because its framers successfully, we could kind of argue that, but successfully separated and balanced the governmental powers to safeguard the interests of majority rule and minority rights, of liberty and equality, and of the federal and state government. More concise statement of national principles that a detailed plan of government operation. The Constitution has evolved to meet the changing needs of modern society, profoundly different from the 18th century world in which its creators lived. That's where the amendments come in. To date, the Constitution has been amended 27 times, most recently in 1992. The first 10 amendments constitute the Bill of Rights. So the first 10 are what our Bill of Rights are. That I didn't know until I was over 50 years old in constitutional law. I'm going to look back here and see if there's any comments or questions. Just scrolling back through. We have leaders in every state as well as national body. Yes, ma'am. So additionally, it took me I didn't, like I said, I just didn't pay attention to this. I didn't understand for many years the difference between my federal representative and my state representative. It's sad, but I didn't, and that's just how it was. Very close to being able to call the convention and change the government. We are very close to being able to call a convention and change the government. That's interesting. So I know other people who feel the same exact way, Diane. Um, they're believing that too, and we're kind of going through that in Oregon because Oregon, there's a portion of Oregon on the east side of the Cascades. Almost all of those counties, a very large amount of counties, want to secede from Oregon, which will not happen. I've explained to the people that want it to happen and the people that are screaming, why are the crazy people trying to change Oregon and move us to Idaho? Um, I've tried to explain that it's not going to happen because, number one, even though Idaho's Congress or their legislature has voted yes, okay, they're fine with it. They still have to join with Oregon's legislature and our legislature, which is a democratically controlled legislature, would have to agree to it. So both states, and then it goes to the federal government, and then 2/3 of the states would have to agree. Do you think Oregon, the Oregon people that want to move, I think it's called Greater Idaho Movement, is going to win? I don't think so. Yeah, Constitution. I wish I had thought about this earlier in life. Very appreciative of the separation of powers. Yeah, I agree. I'm watching the Oregon issue. Good. I don't think it will happen. It would benefit Idaho. It would benefit Idaho greatly. But then there would be some issues, because Oregon, I don't remember if Idaho has the expanded Medicaid or not, but Oregon does have expanded Medicaid. And I'm sure that there's a few people on the east side of the Cascades who are part of that expanded Medicaid, and that does cost money. Alfonso, thank you for coming. I'm having a blessed day. How about you? All right, what we're going to do is go back to some reading here. All right, so we're going to be reading an italicized version. The only thing that means is italicized text indicates words and passages of the Constitution that were changed or affected by amendments, which you will obviously see here shortly. The original text, the preamble: we, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. The United States of America. I think that probably leaves out people, the idea, even though it's there, that Oregon could split away. It can try. Section 1, all legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in all legislative powers shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and a House of Representatives. Section 2, the House of Representatives shall be composed of members chosen every second year of people of several states, and the electors in each state shall have the qualifications requisite for electors of the most numerous branch of the state legislature. So I'm not sure what the qualifications are. I know there's some place where that's identified. No person shall be a representative who shall not have attained to, here we go. There we go. There's my answer. No person shall be a representative, no person shall be a representative who shall not have attained to the age of 25 years and been 7 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state in which they shall be chosen. So got to be 25, a U.S. citizen for 7 years, and be an inhabitant of the state you're being elected in. All right, here's some annotation, looks like. Representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned among the several states, which may be included with this union according to their respective numbers, which shall be determined by adding to the whole number of free persons. Okay, so we know that this has been changed, including those bound to service for a term of years and excluding Indians not taxed, three-fifths of all other persons. So we understand that was changed, and we will be reading about that later. The actual enumeration shall be made within 3 years after the first meeting of Congress of the United States, and within every subsequent term of 10 years, in such manner as they shall by law direct. The number of representatives shall not exceed one for every 30,000, but each state shall have at least one representative. And such enumeration shall be made. The state of New Hampshire shall be entitled to Chus 3. That is the original spelling, Chus 3. Massachusetts 8. Rhode Island and Providence plantations 1. Connecticut 5. New York 6. New Jersey 4. Pennsylvania 8. Delaware 1. Maryland 6. Virginia 10. North Carolina 5. South Carolina 5. And Georgia 3. When vacancies happen in the representation from any state, the executive authority thereof shall issue writs of election to fill such vacancies. The House of Representatives shall chus their speaker and other officers, and shall have the sole power of impeachment. The House of Representatives, the sole power of impeachment. Got to stop here for a minute before we go on to section 3. See if there's any comments. Some states are awful to women and other issues, and there needs to be someone to bring the hammer down. If it's federal level, then they need to do their jobs. Yes, absolutely. Unfortunately, yesterday I fell at work-related event. I tripped over a dog at the bowling area due to poor lighting. Thankfully, I'm okay, but incident report had to be taken at work. I am so sorry to hear that, Alfonso. I had a life-changing injury on the job that took me out of being a realtor. I was a realtor. I loved it. But I injured my foot in a way that I can never do stairs again. I mean, I can walk up the stairs, but I can't do it for a living. Everybody be thinking of Alfonso and praying for him or sending him good thoughts. Our forefathers were quite intelligent to create such a living document. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely, Kaylee. We have to be careful of those bowling dogs. Yes. And I hope that my BFF Lisa's here, but just sitting on the sidelines. She said she would. I wore red lipstick for you, Lisa, if you're here, because you said it's my best color. My BFF Lisa. All right, so let's move on. Any comments, any questions, that we could talk about that is there? We know that there are amendments related to some of that. 3/5 of a person, obviously. So I just want us to be clear about that. You won't be seen, Lisa. You just will be seeing your name. And we would love to have you come and say hi. All right, back to the reading. Section 3. By the way, before I go forward, who knows how many sections there are? It's kind of a stupid question, but how many people know how many sections there are to the Constitution? I'm going to see if anybody puts a number up here in StreamYard. It's, again, those are things It doesn't really matter. However, it's nice to know. However, it's nice to know. We will just go on. And I believe very quickly, there's 7. The Senate of the United States, the Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, chosen by the legislature thereof, for 6 years, and each senator shall have 1 vote. Immediately after, they shall be assembled by the consequence of the first election. They shall be divided as equally as may be into 3 classes. The seats of the senators of the first class shall be vacated at the expiration of the 2nd year, of the 2nd class at the expiration of the 4th year, and the 3rd class at the expiration of the 6th year, so that 1/3 may be chosen every 2nd year, and if vacancies happen by resignation or otherwise, during the recess of the legislature of any state, the executive thereof may make temporary appointments until the next meeting of the legislature, which shall then fill such vacancies. That's very wordy. That's very wordy. If that was something that I was going to study for some reason, I would probably have to read that repeatedly. No person shall be a senator who shall not have attained to age of 30 years, and be 9 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state. So I'm confused. Here's confusion. I'm reading this right from, the Senate's website. Okay, I know that this is legitimate. Let me go back to this. And who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state for which they shall be chosen? I'm confused about that. Does anybody else have an idea? And who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state for which they were chosen? Does anyone on here have an idea? Yeah. That's why it was a living document. Any good leader knows that society learns and changes. Ideally, the governance has to be able to adapt to very good. 100%. Yes, ma'am. It does. It's older English. Well, yes, but that to me isn't even about English. That's about very specific words. That's one of those things I wish I could put a red mark by, but I'll remember that. And I'm curious. And I probably will later go look that up. The Vice President of the United States shall be President of the Senate, but shall have no vote unless they be equally divided. The Senate shall choose their officers, and also a President pro tempore in the absence of the Vice President, or when he shall exercise the office of the President of the United States. So it sounds like to me that if the Vice President, tell me if you agree with what this wording says to you, let's say something happened to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris had to step in and be president. The the President pro tempore would step into the President of the Senate's shoes. Does that sound correct there? First 9 words and the last 12. Try that. Does that sound? Did I read that correctly? That if the Vice President has to step into the President's shoes, pro tempore becomes the President of the Senate. I think that's what it says. The Senate, because it would be nice to know, truthfully. Those are one of the things that it would be nice to know if our Vice President had to serve as president, who would be the person that would step into their place. The Senate shall have the sole power to try all impeachments. So it's brought by the legislature, and then it's tried by the Senate. When sitting for that purpose, they shall be an oath or affirmation. When the President of the United States is tried, the Chief Justice shall preside, and no person shall be convicted without the concurrence of 2/3 of the members present. Brought by legislature and tried by the Senate. 2/3 have to concur for there to be. So when, let's just use President Clinton, we'll use his impeachment. So, and also President Trump, both were impeached, neither was convicted. Because I've had the conversation where people say, well, they were impeached. Yes, they were impeached. They were not convicted. Judgment in case of impeachment shall not extend further than to removal from office and disqualification to hold any and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States. But the party convicted shall nevertheless be liable and subject to indictment, trial, and judgment and punishment according to law. So only according to law, but not by the Senate and legislature. That's how I'm reading that. And I will pop over here before we go on to section 4. Okay, so you see it the same way. Good. Glad to hear that. Specific wording matters. It made me cross-eyed in school when we were discussing distinctions between the words and, or, and slash or, and how it affects the meaning of the writings it appears in. Yes, it does. And lots of people, most of us, why would most of us really think about that? Truthfully. Section 4, the times, place, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be subject in each state by the legislature thereof. But the Congress may at any time by law, honey, just a little less pounded. He's warming up Czar's food. Czar likes to eat it warm. All right. I lost my place. The times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof. So our legislatures make those decisions. But the Congress may at any time by law make or alter such regulations, except as to the places of choosing senators. The Congress shall assemble at least once every year, and such meeting shall be on the first Monday in December, unless they shall by law appoint a different day. Section 5. So let's check over here, see if there's any comments. It's too bad we're not taught before high school ends, the meaning of impeachment, indictment, etc. Yes. I don't even know if in school they have civics in high school any longer. I do believe we had it in high school. I just struggled remembering 1979 for certain reasons that we'll be talking about right now. But I do. I have a hard time remembering those years. 1977, 78, and 79. They are a blur. I'm really trying to drink more water. Double negatives were difficult for me. Difficult. All right. Section 5. Each house shall be the judge of elections, returns and qualifications of its own members, and a majority of each shall constitute a quorum to do business. But a smaller number may adjourn from day to day, and may be authorized to compel the attendance of absent members in such manner and under such penalties as each house may provide. Right. Each house may determine the rules of its proceedings, punish its members for disorderly behavior, and with concurrence of 2/3 expel a member. I don't know if I remember one being expelled personally. If you remember anybody being expelled, let me know. Each house shall keep a journal of its proceedings, and from time to time publish the same, accepting such parts as may, in their judgment, require secrecy. And the yeas and nays of the members of their house on any question shall, at the desire of 1/5 of those present, be entered on the journal. Um, I know that here in Oregon, there is a place I can go sign up, at least for our local uh, proceedings. Anything that happens, I can choose different areas. Like if I want to know what happens in, let's say, Oregon, it's called ODFW, Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. I can anytime there is a change there, I get notified. In different pieces of the state, I also get a update when national parks get changes and all sorts of things. I like to know that kind of stuff. All right, we're on section 6. The senators and representatives shall receive a compensation for their services to be ascertained by law and paid out of the treasury of the United States. They shall, in all cases except treason, felony, and breach of peace, be privileged from arrest during their attendance at the session of their respective houses, and in going to and returning from the same, and for any speech or debate in either house. They shall not be questioned in any other place. Okay. One more reading of that, please. They shall, in all cases, except treason, felony, and breach of peace. So, treason, felony, and breach of peace, they're privileged from arrest during their attendance at the session of their respective houses, and in going to and returning from the same, and for any speech or debate in either house. They shall not be questioned in any other place. So for a speech or debate in the house, they cannot be questioned about that in any other place. So I'm thinking they mean legally, because people constantly question and comment about speeches and things. No senator or representative shall, during the time for which he was elected, be appointed to any civil office under the authority of the United States, which shall have been created, for the emoluments whereof shall have been increased during such time, and no person holding any office under the United States shall be a member of either house during the continuance in office. One more reading. Again, a lot of wordy words. No representative shall, during the time for which he was elected, be appointed to any civil office. Okay, so there's a civil servants, and there's elected. So that's how I read this. So my state representative cannot be appointed to a civil service office position that might come open. If you disagree, tell me why, because I'm curious. Under the, that's just how I'm reading it. I could be very wrong about that. Under the authority of the United States, which shall have been created, or the emoluments whereof shall have been increased during such time, and no person holding any office under the United States shall be a member of either house, his continuance in office. No person holding any office under the United States shall be a member of either house during his continuance in office. So I'm assuming state house. Not outhouse, Richard. It's shocking the way trauma torpedoed my memory. I'm beginning to try to deliberately make it more healthy. Good for you, Kaylee. Good for you. Because trauma does affect our memory. There were many expelled in the 1800s for their political views, which doesn't seem frivolous. It seems like their views impeded progress at the time. And I'm assuming they weren't citizens at the time. can't be harassed, ideally. Okay, yes. So would we call? So here's a question. We don't need to debate it wholly if you don't want to, but would you consider going to, if somebody is at a restaurant, whether it be a representative, a senator, a president, a uh, justice, one of the justices, whether it be, and by the way, federal or state, going picketing in front of their house, even though it's legal, or you find them in a restaurant and you bring all your picketing friends to picket them there, or go up to their table and harass them when they're with their family. Um, to me, that seems like that would be considered harassment. One can't hold a civil office, and that's right. Well, yeah. I think that's exactly what I was reading too. Richard was just saying they can't hold one of these offices and the outhouse office as well. He's a fun time. All right, so we will go on. We're moving. That's what happens when there's four of us. All right, Section 7. All bills for raising revenue shall originate in the House of Representatives. My understanding is the reason is because they represent the people. They're there, literally, they're closer to the people, ideally. They were the one, that's why there's more of them. They are there to represent the people specifically. Now, granted, senators are too. It's just a different set of responsibilities. But tell me what you think about that. But the Senate may propose or concur with amendments as on other bills. So they may concur or propose. They may propose or concur with amendments as on other bills. Every bill which shall now this is the bigger part, by the way. This section. Every bill which shall have passed the House of Representatives and the Senate shall, before it becomes law, be presented to the President of the United States. That way, the President has the opportunity to veto. If he approve, he shall sign it, but if not, he shall return it with his objections, so that House on which it shall have originated, who shall enter the objections at large or on their journal, and proceed to reconsider it. Okay? If after such reconsideration 2/3 of the House shall agree to pass the bill, it shall be sent together with the objections to the other House, by which it shall likewise be reconsidered, and if approved by 2/3 of that House, it shall become law. But in all such cases, the votes of the House shall be determined by yeas and nays, and the names of the persons voting for and against the bill shall be entered on the journal of each House, respectively. If any bill shall not be returned by the President within 10 days, Sundays excepted, after it shall have been presented to him, the same shall be a law, in like manner as if he had signed it, unless the Congress, by their adjournment, prevents its return, in which case it shall not be law. I have seen that happen. Every order, resolution, or vote to which the concurrence of the Senate and House of Representatives may be necessary, except on a question of adjournment, shall be presented to the President of the United States, and before the same shall take effect, shall be approved by him or being disapproved by him, shall be repassed by 2/3 of the Senate and House of Representatives, according to the rules and limitations prescribed in the case of a bill. Every order, resolution, or vote to which the concurrence of the Senate and House of Representatives may be necessary, except on a question of adjournment, shall be presented to the President of the United States. And before the same shall take effect, shall be approved by him or being disapproved by him, shall be repassed by 2/3 of the Senate and House of Representatives, according to the rules. All right. Did we all get that? Those expelled supported the Confederacy, which impeded the progress of the idea of being a united society. Okay. They are more answerable to the constituents due to their more frequent elections, shorter terms. Very good, Kaylee, travel dreamer. Thank you for that. That's important. So I actually wish the Senate was a little less time. 6 years seems like a long time, but yes, that's important to note because they do get elected more frequently. I just said to somebody yesterday in a private family page that we have that if the person doesn't like what's happening, vote out the person. So there is opportunity and options. Other representatives. I know it's just not a popular subject, Judy. It's really not a popular subject, and I understand that. We're going to get to the more of the kind of the interest. I mean, to me, this is all interesting. But when we get to the amendments, I'm thinking there might be more people here when I put on a thumbnail that we're going to be talking about the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the 10th Amendment, whatever. And I identify what that is. I'm hoping. I really am. But that's why I said, if you have some other, it could even be Facebook, other social media to share it out on, share it out. Stronger feelings and more may want to avoid possible triggers or in case the discussion develops into chaos. That's true, Kaylee. However, and I have made a video about the interaction, and I'll tell you more about it at the end of this. Let me leave it at that. The interaction that happened a few weeks ago, I have made a video. It's still being held, and I'll talk about that briefly. It's complete and ready to go. Just have it, no red. He was asking how long till the ground he is sauteing up ground turkey for Czar, the German Shepherd. He's having a struggle eating for some reason. Okay. Absolutely, Fatima. I wish each and every representative took their position seriously instead of just siding with their party blindly for power and money. That is true. And I do. Okay, so I do know that we have independents. And I know that those independents, I agree 100%, Judy. Term limits is something I wish was strongly understood, could be very useful in our country. That's just personal opinion. But I agree. I wish they weren't paid for life, even if only serve one term. I wish their salaries were in line with the scope of their work. So, maybe not paid the same amount, but paid a different amount. Because the reality is one of the reasons that I understand to be the issue, Kaylee, is that we're trying to attract more qualified, willing people to come and represent us. And that means some of those people will have to come out of private sector, potentially very successful in private sector work, to come over and do something less financially profitable, obviously, to them. Because I don't think they're supposed to become multimillionaires just because they become a senator or representative. Now, the reality, the second part of that is that they will make connections while they're in office, obviously, because we look at donor lists. And they can make friends, and when they leave office, maybe return to something that is profitable. That's kind of how I see it. I just think they get a leg up by being us doing service to our country. They not only do service to their country, they do get a leg up in potential other careers down the road. No privilege group. Yep. That's I'm actually starting to think more in terms of some sort of, I'm going to use this phrase loosely, so don't leave because I use the word. If you're against it, somebody already did. Universal health care of some sort. However, Here's the problem. And I don't want to get off track of this because we're making good progress, but we're right at that stopping point for that section. So in Oregon, we have had what's called the Oregon Health Plan, which is Oregon's form of Medicaid for a couple decades. And I've had it for a big chunk of that because I have been in the, now we're down to one person viewing. Oh, God. I mentioned, okay. All right. Hello, Kaylee. So, so in Oregon, we've had it for a long time. And when it first started, the governor, John Kitzhaber, who was excellent, and he was, by the way, a Democrat. His goal was to make, he had been an emergency room doctor. He was an emergency, okay, good, Fatima, glad you're still here. He was an emergency room doctor, and he simply, and Planet and Fitness, thank you guys, I'm glad you're still here. So there is a couple more of us. So he just wanted health care because he had been on the front lines of serious problems. And so we did do Oregon Health Plan, passed it. Lots of people were on it. So what happened is, as more people were on it, they had to shrink down what they could cover because, of course, more people were getting services. And it became unmanageable financially for the state to fully do that. Additionally, as what I came to understand as well is that every year in this country there are only so many slots for a certain level of becoming a doctor, and I don't remember which level that is. Those have to be changed so that there can be more doctors put into the stream of doctors, so we have more medical practitioner. Okay, so I am on Medicaid because I'm on SSI here in Oregon. So I have to wait 6 months. 6 months for a CT scan. So of my abdomen to find out what I've got going on in my abdomen. Because, an ultrasound. The CT scan shows, there's a problem. They can't quite figure it out. It needs to be an ultrasound. I have to wait 6 months for an ultrasound. And that is because first of all, there isn't enough practitioners. All right. Kaylee says she does believe in universal health care. Everyone should be able to receive medical care when needed. That's true. And I agree with that. And we have to find a way to finance that sufficiently. Not Rob and Peter to pay Paul and John and Bob and Ellen and Helen. All right, Section 8. Section 8. The Congress shall have power to lay. This is kind of neat. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes. Congress. The duties, imposts, and excises to pay the debts and provide the common defense and general welfare of the United States. But all duties, imports, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States. To borrow money on credit of the United States. So these are other parts of it. To regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states and with Indian tribes. To establish an uniform rule of naturalization and uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies throughout the United States. To coin money, regulate the value thereof and a foreign coin, and fix the standard of weights and measures. A question here. Just you put yes or no in the comments. Do you think we're going to go to primarily a digital currency in the next 5 years? That's a down the road conversation, but I'm curious. To provide for the punishment of counterfeiting the securities and current coin of the United States. To establish post office and post roads. And I remember having I remember our address where I grew up, a big chunk of my little girl life. It was Route 1, Box 348. Never forget it. Route 1, Box 348. And that probably changed when I was 7-ish or 8 to 927. Or excuse me, 1720 Kelso. So I remember that. Postal. to promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors an exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. That's extremely important. That's imperative. To constitute tribunals inferior to the Supreme Court. Tribunals inferior. So Supreme Court, others, to define and punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas and offenses against the law of nations. And offenses against the law of nations. I'm going to pop over to StreamYard and check and see. I do believe, okay, we do believe it should be received medical care adequately. True. The money question, I hope not, is my first feeling. It would be rock solid. And how would that be achieved?
Hi, everyone.
Where are you going?
I just came back.
Oh, okay.
You didn't answer your phone?
No, I didn't answer my
I know
phone.
you were on stream, but I was hoping you would.
I didn't see it
But
there.
it's okay. I came home. But I just wanted to say hi to the stream really quick.
All right. Well, drive safe.
I'm back.
Oh, I mean, you're back. I'm glad you're back and you drove safe. Okay. See, I'm focused. I'm focused, guys. It would have to be rock solid, and how would that be achieved? Exactly. I think it would push. Okay, I think it would push us in. I think it would push many people into a barter system. I think it would develop a big, strong barter system because I know many people who are not the least interested in digital currency, and the potential for problems with that. I don't know that there would be, but I'm simply saying I already heard many people discuss that as a potential. All right. So good son, yes he is. As a matter of fact, he made me breakfast this morning. He is. I didn't know it, and I was still in bed. All right, back to reading. Let's see where we are. Okay. To declare war, grant letters of marque and reprisal, to make rules concerning captures of land on land and water. Marque. What does marque mean? I guess I don't know what the word marque in this terminology means. To declare war, grant letters of marque or marque, however it's pronounced. If anybody wants to look that up and put it in the chat, I'd love it. To raise and support armies, but no appropriation of money to that use shall be for a longer term than 2 years. So every 2 years, the military, I'm assuming, has to come and ask for more money to provide and maintain a navy, to make rules for the government and regulation of the land and naval forces, to provide for calling forth the militia to execute the laws of the Union, to pass insurrections and repeal invasions, to provide for organizing, arming, and disciplining the militia, and for governing such. So, I think, this is me thinking, I think in their terms, the militia was what I think of now. And by the way, I may be wrong. Is the National Guard, would be akin to what we have today as the National Guard. Do you agree or think that I'm off? They, of course, didn't call it that then, but I'm just saying, I don't know that I'm right. And for giving such part of them as may be employed of the service of the United States, reserving to the states respectively the appointment of the officers and the authority of training the militia according to the discipline prescribed by Congress. There we go. So I think that that's what the state National Guard is. in my mind. To exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district not exceeding 10 miles square, as may in session of particular states, and the acceptance of Congress become the seat of the government of the United States, and to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislature of the state in which the same shall be, for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings, and we're almost at the end of this, to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers, and all the powers vested by this Constitution in the government of the United States or in any department or officer thereof. I'm going to check something out here. We're starting at section 9. Okay, section 9 is so there's 10 sections, not 7. I was wrong too. I'm going to check out, see if there's any comments. I'm not interested in it. I don't know much about it all, what supports it, the strengths and weaknesses of how stable or unstable it could be. Look how fast Bitcoin was taken down. Okay, yes, but they're still trading Bitcoin. Okay, so I actually invested $5. $5. My son begged me to invest $5 in a Bitcoin thing. I can lose $5. But Bitcoin is still around. There's still that kind of currency is still being used. Marquee and Reprisal was a government license in the age of sail, and authorized a private person known as a privateer or corsair to attack and capture vessels of a nation at war with the issuer. All right, so that makes sense to me. Now, hope it is not enforced now. Sounds like a license to steal, torture, kill. Can anyone say Somalia? Yeah. Bad situation. I see it as a National Guard too. Fatima, this is a contention of some groups. Okay, so by, and how do you know that? I need to check some important news. Just a moment. Just one moment, please. All right, breaking news. I'm going to jump in here for just a moment. We'll go right back to this. Let me pull it up here. I'm going to have to pull this up. Somebody may be interested in this information. Grand jury votes to indict Donald Trump. Well, so exact charges against former president aren't known. Case centers on hush money payments to porn stars. All right, so there we got it. The grand jury did vote to indict. All right, and that is their right to do, by the way. And I have no qualms with that. So I'm just going to shut that down, and we'll go back to our reading. We're on section 9. Or let me go back and check and see if there's any comments about what we just read. Were there 7 with an additional 3? This shows as being 7 sections, or excuse me, 9 or 10 sections to the Constitution. There's section 10. After that comes the articles. So I thought there was 7 as well. It's showing there's 10. All right, I'm going to have to pull this back up on StreamYard. As a matter of fact, share screen. All right. And before I move on, I'll see if there's any comments. Yeah, still trading, but how many people were destroyed? Oh, lots of people were destroyed overnight, Kaylee. We know it's horrible. Correct, my issue in the safety of such system. There are no safety. What I can see, all right, what I can see, and by the way, I know almost as little as there is possibly to know about how Bitcoin works, all right? There doesn't seem to be any safeguards for the exchanger. Like I would call myself the exchanger. I'm exchanging it I gave somebody, who knows, $5. We will see if there's any reason I did that for a rational reason. All right, agreed with Fatima. Our electronic systems ever truly secure, and what would the protections be? Would there be restitution come from? Yeah, exactly. I don't think there would be any sort of restitution. All right, so we'll go back over here to the Constitution. Section 9. The migration or importation of such persons as any of the states now existing shall think proper to admit. So it looks to me like states have that ability to admit or not. Shall not be prohibited by Congress prior to the year 1888. Okay. The year they did this, I'm like thinking, hold on now. But a tax or duty may be imposed on such importation, not exceeding $10 for each person. So it looks to me like this is done in italicized writing. So that is addressed. The privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless when in case of rebellion or invasion, the public safety may require it. So for public safety, habeas corpus may be suspended. No bill of attainder or ex post facto law shall be passed. So no bill of attainder or ex post facto law shall be passed. I'm going to make sure here, because like I said, bill of attainder is legislation that imposes punishment on a specific person or group of people without a judicial trial. What would you call something that's not a judicial trial? A mob? I'm just saying, I don't know how that could be considered any kind of trial. And ex post facto is a law that changes the legal status or consequence of an action after it has already been done, especially a law that makes an action. Okay? A criminal statute that punishes actions retroactively, thereby criminalizing conduct that was legal when originally performed. Okay, so a criminal statute that punishes actions retroactively. Okay. I learned to read the things that I didn't know for sure. The intent of the document must be followed. It can't be used abusively. No. All right, back to here. No capitulation or other direct tax shall be laid. No capitation or other direct tax shall be laid unless in proportion to the census or enumeration herein before directed to be taken. No tax or duty shall be laid on articles exported from any state. No preference shall be given by any regulation of commerce or revenue on the ports of one state over those of another. No preference shall be given by any regulation of commerce or revenue to the ports of one state over those of another. Nor shall vessels bound to or from one state be obligated to enter, clear, or pay duties to another. Yeah, there would be problems. No money shall be drawn from the treasury, but in consequence of appropriations made by law. Common sense. And regular statement and account of the receipts and expenditures of all public money shall be published from time to time. So I think that's something a lot of people have issue with. So I would say this is one of the places where those who consider themselves conservative and liberal have issue is with what money is paid for, because it is clear that each side of the aisle has things that they're interested in that's not part of the other side of the aisle, and that's a sad place to be, I believe. Granted, people are going to have differences, but really, when did the aisle get to be Grand Canyon size? I mean, really, I'm not sure exactly at what point in time we became a Grand Canyon of a aisle. No title of nobility shall be granted by the United States, and no person holding any office of profit or trust under them shall, without the consent of Congress, accept any present emolument, office, or title of any kind whatever from any king, prince, or foreign state. And finally, at number 10, no state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque or reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment for debts, pass any bill of attainder, ex post facto law, or law impairing the obligation of contracts, or grant any title of nobility. This is number 10 is about what states can't do, obviously. No state shall, without the consent of Congress, lay any imposts or duties on imports or exports, except what may be absolutely necessary for executing its inspection laws, and the net produce of all duties and imposts laid by the state on imports or exports shall be for the use of Treasury of the United States, and all such laws shall be subject to the revision and control of Congress. That to me makes complete sense, to make sure that the states, people aren't being double taxed, to bring their goods into this country. No state shall, without the consent of Congress, lay any duty of tonnage, keep troops or ships of war in time of peace, enter into any agreement or compact with another state or with foreign power, or engage in war unless actually invaded or in such imminent danger as will not admit of delay. All right, so that kind of makes perfect sense. All right, so that is the reading of the Constitution. The rest of it would be now going in one amendment at a time, starting with the First Amendment. And, the first 10 being our Bill of Rights. I'm going to go back over here and to StreamYard. I'm going to stop sharing. All right. I'll look at the comments. Read from the, okay, so we talked about that. Accounting and auditing always follow the money. There was, if there isn't a money trail, something hinky's going on to start with. I think the Grand Canyon was created people who are not working together as a single body for the good of those represented, which is what they were elected and paid for. 100% Kaylee, and here's the deal for me. Here's one of the deals for me is that there's people who are benefiting benefiting in one way or another from keeping the Grand Canyon alive and well, and each side screaming at each other. And I just said this recently to people that didn't appreciate it, that I love and I know and are, everybody's good people, but don't appreciate that thought. I don't know why. To me, it makes sense. There's people who benefit from us yelling and screaming at each other. So I am going to have to end this. I've got a situation I have to go deal with relative to me. And I do appreciate you guys hanging out. This has been a lot of reading, a lot of, sound coming out of my mouth, nothing out of anybody else's. And I can hear my voice is really starting to get problematic. So thank you. And I wish you're right. I wish there were more people who cared about this, who thought about this as an important thing. That there have been max 7 people at one time. Woo! 7 people who care about it. And because we need to hear all people. And I think there's people who, just like I said, feel like there's potential conflict when you're talking about the Constitution of, in this case, our country, and don't want to be a part of that potential. So I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. So I will be back on Sunday, and for some fun, I'm going to try and find something a little different. And Kaylee, I am going to contact you about how to get you to be up here, when you want to come up, or if we want to have a second moderator, like Brent does from time to time. It's soup. I just haven't figured out how with your. Thank you, Judy. I appreciate you being here very, very much. And if anybody thinks of anything, come back and put it in the comments. Ask a question, make a comment, have some dialogue about it. But in the meantime, between now and Sunday, you guys stay safe, stay healthy. Find out what your passion is. Make the passion happen, because you're the only person who can do that. All right? Have a nice evening.